The war began with silence, not with fire. Armies waited under the pale light of a broken sky, and the air felt heavy as if the world itself knew something was about to change. Alien banners moved with the wind, their colors bright against the dust, and soldiers in shining armor stood tall. They believed their steel was unbreakable, their weapons unmatched, and their pride unshaken. Among them stood their champion, a young alien girl with glowing blue skin and pink hair that shimmered like fire in the fading sun. Her armor gleamed like silver mountains, built from what her people swore was the strongest metal in the galaxy. She raised her hand and spoke to her warriors. Her voice was clear and strong, filled with a mix of youth and command. No one can pierce this metal. No one can defeat us. Today we will show the human why he should kneel. Her soldiers roared, the sound echoing across the barren field. They had no fear because their leader gave them none. On the other side, the human stood alone. His armor was not shining, nor was it grand. He wore simple plates scarred from battles, a weapon at his side, and dust clinging to his skin. To the aliens, he looked weak, a creature of flesh without the protection of true power. Yet his eyes were calm, and his step steady as he walked forward without hesitation. The alien girl laughed when she saw him approach. "This is the warrior they send?" she asked, her voice loud enough for her army to hear. "A man of dirt and bone? He cannot even lift the weight of his own world. Watch and learn how fragile he is." Her soldiers laughed with her, their voices mocking, their confidence sharp. But the human said nothing. He only looked at her, his gaze steady, as though he had seen 1,000 battles and this was nothing more than another step. His silence unnerved some, though they did not show it. The alien girl stepped forward. The metal plates of her armor clinked softly, shining under the dim light. She raised her blade and pointed it at him. "Strike me," she commanded. "Show your strength. Let your people see how useless you are against the strongest armor ever made." The human moved closer. His hand brushed against the surface of her shoulder guard. The metal was cold, flawless, polished to perfection. Around them, the alien warriors leaned in, waiting for the sound of a strike, waiting for the proof of their champion's words. But the human did not raise his blade. He tapped one spot, just beneath the edge where two plates met. A single sound echoed, not the crash of battle, but the light touch of skin against steel. The girl froze. For a moment her breath caught and her confidence cracked. The armor trembled, as if the touch had awakened something deep inside it. The soldiers blinked in confusion. They whispered among themselves, unsure why their strongest metal shook at a mere touch. The girl's eyes widened, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Impossible. No one knows that place. No one should know." The human finally spoke, his words quiet but firm. "Every shield has a weakness. Every wall has a door. You only need to know where to look." The silence that followed was heavy. Even the wind seemed to stop. The girl's pride, her boast, her belief in indestructible armor all shook under that one truth. Her soldiers no longer laughed. They stared at the human, fear creeping into their eyes. The human stepped back, calm and unshaken, his gaze never leaving hers. The field of war no longer felt like theirs. It felt like his. The soldiers did not move at first. They stood frozen, their blades still raised, their armor still shining, but their courage had shifted. The girl felt it as sharply as if the wind itself had carried the weight of their doubt. Her army had always believed in her strength, in the strength of the armor she wore. It was more than steel to them. It was their pride, their proof that no force in the galaxy could ever match them, and now one human touch had broken that faith. The girl clenched her fists. Her voice trembled at first, but then rose strong again. "It is only a trick," she said loudly. "Do not be fooled. He knows nothing. He is a simple creature who plays with chance." She stepped forward, her armor clanking, and pointed her weapon at the human once more. The human still did not flinch. His calm unnerved her. She swung her blade, sharp and fast, meant to cut him down in one clean strike, but he shifted aside, almost lazily, as if he knew exactly how to move before she even attacked. The blade cut air, and sparks flew when it hit the stone ground. The alien soldiers cheered, shouting for her to press harder. They wanted proof their leader's boast still stood. She attacked again, this time with fury, her strikes faster, stronger, shaking the ground with each swing. The human dodged, weaving between her blows, never rushing, never breaking his calm. At last his hand shot out again, striking the same spot beneath her shoulder guard. A crack echoed across the battlefield. It was small, like the sound of glass breaking far away, but to her it felt like thunder. Her arm stiffened. her weapon trembling in her grip. The human leaned close enough for only her to hear. Strength is not in the armor. It is in the one who wears it. Without that, the metal is just weight. She gasped, her chest burning with anger. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had dared. Her people had raised her as a warrior of perfection, untouchable and unmatched. Now this human stood before her, shattering her pride with nothing but words and a touch. The army around them grew restless. Their cheers faded into whispers. Some looked at the cracks spreading across her armor. The strongest metal was not supposed to break. The lie of invincibility was falling apart. Desperate to silence their doubt, the girl roared and slammed her weapon against the ground. A wave of force erupted, shaking dust into the air. She stepped back, eyes burning red, and shouted to her army, "Do not fear. He is flesh, he bleeds. Watch me crush him." She lunged again, faster this time, pouring all her strength into one deadly strike. The human raised his blade to meet hers. The clash rang across the valley, sparks dancing in the air. For the first time he pushed her back. Her soldiers gasped. The metal of her armor screeched as another line cracked across her chest plate. She stumbled, and for one breath she looked like a warrior stripped of certainty. The human lowered his weapon but did not press forward. He only said, "Your strength is real, but your faith is in the wrong thing." The girl's breath came fast. She could feel the eyes of her army on her back, their doubt heavy as chains. She wanted to scream at them, to fight, to believe, to stand unshaken. Yet inside her the seed of fear grew. How could a human without the strongest armor, without the finest weapon, face her like this? How could he see the flaw no one else had ever known? The battlefield felt different now. The human had not won yet, but everyone watching knew one truth. The war was no longer about armies. It was about her pride, and the single human who stood against it. Dust still hung in the air from her last strike. The ground cracked where her blade had fallen, yet the human stood untouched, calm as stone. The alien girl's chest heaved with every breath, the weight of her armor pressing harder than ever before. She had always felt power when wearing it, but now it felt heavy, like chains locking her in place. Her soldiers shifted uneasily. Some clutched their weapons tighter. Others looked away, but all of them were thinking the same thing. If their champion could not crush a lone human, then what hope did they have? Their belief had been a shield, and now it was breaking. The girl forced herself to smile, though her lips trembled. "You are clever," she said, her voice sharp. "You know tricks. But tricks are not strength. Tricks will not save you when I end this." The human tilted his head. His eyes carried no mockery, no boast, only calm truth. "If you believed that, you would have defeated me already." Her blood boiled at those words. She attacked again, her strikes wild with fury. Steel clashed against stone, sparks lighting the air. She struck high, low, sweeping wide, each blow meant to crush him. But he flowed between them, his movements smooth, almost effortless. It was as if he had fought 1,000 battles just like this, each one teaching him patience. At last the girl leapt, her blade raised for a killing strike. She fell like a storm, her armor glowing with energy as she poured everything into the attack. The ground shook when she landed, a crater forming beneath her. But when the dust cleared, the human was behind her, untouched. Her heart froze. No one had ever escaped that strike, not once. She spun, fury blazing in her eyes, only to see him standing with his hand resting against his weapon but not drawing it. He had not even needed to strike. The soldiers began to murmur. Their voices carried doubt now, not loyalty. How is this possible?" one whispered. Another said, "The human knows her weakness." The girl's pride cracked deeper than her armor. She screamed to silence them. "Do not fear. I will show you his blood." She rushed again, her armor sparking with energy, and finally the human raised his blade. Their weapons clashed, and for a moment the air sang with fire and steel. But the human's strength was different. It was not raw power. It was control, precise and sure. With each clash, he guided her strikes aside, forcing her to spend more strength while he used less. Her arms ached. Her breath grew ragged. Sweat dripped down her glowing skin. Then it happened again. His blade slid past hers, striking the same spot on her shoulder guard. A louder crack tore through the air. A piece of metal broke away, falling to the ground with a heavy thud. The strongest metal of her people, the armor she had sworn was indestructible, now lay shattered at her feet. The soldiers gasped, stepping back in disbelief. Their faith was collapsing, piece by piece, just like her armor. The girl staggered, her knees weak. She wanted to deny it, to scream that it was a trick, but the truth lay in the broken shard glittering in the dust. The human's voice was steady, almost quiet, yet it cut deeper than any blade. It was never the armor. You put your faith in steel instead of yourself. That is why it breaks. For the first time, the girl felt fear, not of the human's blade, but of what she had always believed. Everything she thought unshakable was crumbling. Her army watched with wide, fearful eyes, and she knew that if she fell, so too would their will to fight. But her pride, sharp as her blade, refused to let go. She rose again, her voice trembling but loud. I will not yield to a creature of flesh. I am the champion of my people. I will fight until the end. The human nodded slowly, as if he had expected nothing less. He raised his weapon, ready at last to end the duel. The two warriors stood in the center of the broken field. Around them, silence stretched long and heavy. The alien soldiers no longer cheered. Their eyes darted from the shattered pieces of their champion's armor to the calm figure of the human. Fear had begun to eat away at their loyalty, and the girl could feel it like a blade against her back. Her pride screamed at her to strike again, to show them she was still their protector, still their strength. She could not let them see her doubt. With a roar, she lunged, swinging her blade with renewed fury. Sparks burst each time steel met stone or steel met steel. But the human was always there, always just beyond her reach. He did not fight like a wild beast. He fought like someone who had already won. Each step, each move felt deliberate, as if he had mapped the fight before it began. He struck not with force but with precision. When his blade connected, it was always at the weak points, the hidden seams, the places no one else even knew existed. Another strike landed. Another crack spread across her chest plate. The sound echoed like thunder to her ears, and gasps rose from her army. She stumbled but caught herself quickly, refusing to fall. Her breath was heavy, her arms trembling, yet her eyes still blazed with stubborn fire. Do you think this proves anything? She shouted at him. You are only one man. I command thousands. Even if you break me, my army will bury you. The human lowered his blade slightly but did not relax. An army that doubts its leader is already broken, he said softly. Those words cut sharper than his blade. She could feel the doubt growing behind her. The whispers were louder now. Her soldiers shifted, their faith unraveling like cloth in the wind. Rage filled her chest. She could not allow this, not here, not now. She gathered her strength, the energy from her armor burning bright. With a cry, she unleashed it all in one massive strike. The ground split open, dust and stone exploding into the air. The shockwave knocked some of her own soldiers back. For a moment, even she could not see through the storm she had created. When the dust settled, the human was still standing. His feet were firm, his blade steady, his eyes calm. He had weathered her greatest attack without falling. Her heart sank. If even this could not break him, then what could? She tried to raise her weapon again, but her arms felt heavy, her armor tighter than ever. The cracks spread wider across her chest and shoulders. Each movement threatened to tear the metal apart. She could not hide it anymore. Her indestructible armor was dying around her. The human took a step forward. His voice carried across the field, steady and clear. You fight with anger. I fight with purpose. That is the difference. His words made her soldiers look at him with something she never thought they would show a human. Respect. Their eyes betrayed the thought she feared most, that perhaps he was stronger than her. Her pride fought against the weight of her failing armor. She gritted her teeth and screamed, charging once more, refusing to give up. Their blades clashed in a storm of sparks. This time his strength met hers directly, and she felt herself pushed back. His weapon slid against hers, and in one precise strike he struck the center seam of her chest plate. The armor shattered. Shards of the strongest metal scattered across the ground like broken glass. She fell to her knees, her breath ragged, her body trembling. For the first time in her life, she felt exposed, not just without armor, but without the unshakable pride she had always carried. Her soldiers stood in stunned silence, their faith broken. The human lowered his weapon, but did not smile, did not gloat. He only looked at her with steady eyes, as if to say the fight was already over. The battlefield had gone quiet, as though the world itself held its breath. The alien girl knelt among the shards of her broken armor, her shoulders shaking with every breath. For so long she had been the symbol of her people's pride, the unbreakable shield they believed no enemy could pierce. Now that shield lay in ruins, scattered across the dust. Her soldiers did not cheer for her. They did not shout her name. Their silence was worse than defeat. Their eyes were wide with fear, their hands loose around their weapons. Some looked at her with pity. Others looked at the human as though he had become something more than flesh and blood, something they could not understand. She slammed her fist into the ground, forcing herself back to her feet. Her voice cracked, but she shouted anyway. "Do not look away. I am still your champion. I will not fall to this creature." But her words sounded hollow even to her own ears. The human did not move closer. He did not raise his blade. He only watched her, his calm gaze cutting deeper than any weapon. Her chest burned with shame and fury. She raised her weapon again, though her arms trembled. She knew the truth now. Her armor was gone, her energy drained, her soldier's faith shattered. Still, she could not yield. Yielding would mean more than losing a battle. It would mean losing herself. She rushed forward, a scream tearing from her throat. Her blade swung wildly, heavy with desperation. The human blocked each strike with ease. His movements were not rushed. They were not cruel. He fought as though guiding her to an end he already knew. At last, he stepped in close. His blade hooked hers aside, and with the back of his hand he tapped her chest where the armor had once covered. She froze. She felt no pain, no wound, but the meaning was clear. If he had wanted, that touch could have been her end. She staggered back, her weapon falling from her hand. It struck the ground with a dull clang. Her breath came in short gasps. She could not deny it anymore. He had defeated her. The silence of her army grew heavier. They looked to her, waiting for her to rise again, waiting for proof that their faith had not been wasted. But she had nothing left to give. Her pride screamed inside her, but her body refused to move. The human lowered his weapon. His voice was steady, quiet, but it carried across the broken field. "You are not weak, but strength is not found in steel, or in the fear of those who follow you. True strength is found here." He touched his chest where his heart beat steady beneath the scars. The girl clenched her fists. Her pride wanted to spit at his words, to call him a liar. Yet something deep within her could not. She had felt his strength, not in crushing force, but in calm resolve. He did not need unbreakable armor to stand tall. He did not need thousands of soldiers to make him strong. He was strong because he believed in himself, in something greater than pride. Her soldiers shifted again. Some dropped their weapons. Others knelt without meaning to, their eyes locked on the human. She saw it, and it broke her heart. They were losing faith in her. Worse, they were giving it to him. Her legs shook. She sank slowly to the ground, her voice trembling. "What are you? How can you stand against everything we built?" The human's answer was simple, almost gentle. "I am only human." The words echoed louder than any roar. Her soldiers bowed their heads, some in shame, some in awe. The war they had thought would prove their might had instead shown them a truth they could not deny. The girl lowered her gaze. For the first time, she felt small. The human had not just broken her armor. He had broken the belief that had carried her all her life. The girl sat in silence, the dust still clinging to her hair, the shards of her armor scattered around her like the ruins of her pride. Her chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. She could not look at her soldiers. She feared what she would see in their eyes, but she heard it, the whispers. Low at first, then stronger. Some voices shook with fear. Others trembled with awe. They spoke not of her, but of him, the human. One soldier murmured. "He defeated her without killing her," another said. "He broke the unbreakable," whispered a third. The girl clenched her fists. Each word cut her deeper than a blade. They were her warriors, her army, her people. Yet now they looked to him as though he carried the strength they had once found in her. The human stood silently, his blade lowered. He did not look proud of victory. He looked as though the fight had been only a step, not the end. His calm unsettled her even more than his strikes. He could have killed her, yet he had not. He had left her alive, stripped only of the pride she once believed indestructible. At last, one soldier dared to step forward. He dropped his weapon to the ground and knelt before the human. The sound of metal hitting stone echoed, and soon others followed. One by one, warriors laid down their blades, their voices quiet but their actions clear. They no longer fought for her. The girl's eyes widened. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Do not kneel to him. I am your champion. I am your shield." But her words did not reach them. Her army had already begun to crumble, their faith leaving her like water slipping through open hands. She rose shakily to her feet, her knees weak, her body aching, but her spirit still clawed against the truth. She pointed at the human, her voice trembling but loud. "He is only one man. He cannot lead you. He cannot protect you." The human finally looked at her, his eyes steady. "They do not kneel to me because of who I am. They kneel because I showed them what cannot be denied. The truth." The word struck harder than his blade. Truth. That was what her people had feared most. That the myth of their unbreakable armor was only that. A myth. And now the proof lay at her feet. Her heart burned with shame. She wanted to scream, to strike him again, to prove him wrong. But her body would not obey, and her mind could not lie to itself anymore. The armor was broken. Her strength had failed. Still, she refused to fall. Her pride would not let her. She straightened her back and lifted her chin. "You may have won this duel, human. But wars are not ended by one fight. Others will come. Others will test you." The human's voice was calm. "Let them come. I do not fear truth, and neither should you." For the first time, she felt the weight of his words. She had lived her whole life under the shadow of lies, taught that her armor made her more than she was, that her people's pride was stronger than reality. But the human stood with no armor, no army, and still carried a strength she could not break. Her soldiers continued to kneel. The battlefield that had once been her stage now belonged to him. She could not deny it anymore. She had lost more than a fight. She had lost what made her their champion, and yet deep inside something stirred. It was not rage, not pride, but something unfamiliar, the faint spark of a question. If armor could fail, if pride could shatter, then what was true strength? She had seen it in him, but she did not yet understand it. Her eyes locked on the human, and for the first time she did not see him only as an enemy. She saw him as something else, something she might have to learn from if she wished to rise again. The girl stood among the kneeling soldiers, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. She wanted to command them, to order them back to their feet, to remind them she was their champion, but the words stuck in her throat. Even if she shouted, even if she screamed, would they listen? The broken armor at her feet answered for her. The human did not demand their loyalty. He did not raise his blade to claim them. He simply stood still, as if their choice was their own. That made it worse. He did not need to ask. They gave him respect freely, something she had always believed belonged only to her. Her pride clawed at her chest. She was born to lead, raised to believe her strength was the strongest, her armor the proof of her people's greatness. Now she felt naked, not only without her armor but without the weight of their faith. It was gone, and she did not know how to get it back. At last she spoke, her voice quiet but sharp. "Why did you not finish me? If you wished to take everything from me, why leave me alive?" The human's eyes met hers. They were not cruel. They were steady, calm, and far too clear. "Because killing you would prove nothing. You lost the moment you believed your armor made you invincible. You live because you must learn what strength truly is." Her fists clenched. "Do not speak to me as if I am your student. I am a warrior of my people." "Then act like one," he said. "A warrior does not hide behind lies. A warrior faces truth." His words struck her harder than any blow. She wanted to deny them, to shout him down, but deep inside she knew they were not lies. Every battle she had fought, every victory she had claimed had been painted with the illusion of unbreakable steel. She had never truly faced her own weakness until today. Her soldiers continued to kneel, their silence a heavy weight pressing down on her shoulders. She could feel their doubt, their fear, their quiet hope for something more. It stung that they now looked at the human with those eyes, but what stung most was that she understood them. She too had felt something in him, something beyond steel and pride. One soldier finally stood and spoke. His voice trembled, but it was clear. "Champion, we followed you because we believed your armor made you invincible, but now we see it can break. We see he fights with something stronger than metal." The girl's eyes burned, but not with anger. The truth cut deep, and she could not argue. She looked at the human again. He had not asked for their loyalty, yet he stood taller than ever. He had shown them something real. Her voice was low, almost broken. "If armor is nothing, then what am I without it? What is left for me to lead with?" The human stepped closer. His presence was steady, unshaken, like a mountain that could not be moved. "You are still yourself. Your heart, your will. Your people need that, not metal that lies." The words sank into her, heavy but strangely freeing. She felt something she had not felt since the first time she held a blade. Doubt, yes, but also possibility. If everything she had believed could shatter, Then perhaps something stronger could be built in its place. The soldiers waited, silent, watching. She realized the choice was no longer about pride. It was about what kind of leader she would be now, stripped of armor and myth. Her hand trembled as she reached down to pick up her fallen weapon. The blade was still sharp, still hers. She looked at it, then at the human. Her pride whispered to challenge him again, but another voice, quieter yet stronger, whispered something new, perhaps to rise again. She would first have to listen. The girl held her weapon tightly, the blade heavy in her hands. For the first time, it did not feel like a tool of victory. It felt like a question. The silence of her soldiers pressed down on her. Their eyes followed every move she made. They no longer looked at her as the indestructible champion she once claimed to be. They waited to see if she would cling to lies or find something new. Her pride screamed inside her chest. She wanted to raise the blade and attack again to prove she was not broken, but deep inside, another voice pushed against that pride. It whispered that repeating the same fight would only end the same way. The human had already shown her what she did not want to see. The human watched her calmly, his weapon lowered. He did not press her, did not humiliate her. He simply waited. That patience was more terrifying than any strike. He fought with certainty, while she stood trapped between fear and pride. Finally, her voice cut through the still air. If I am nothing without armor, then what am I to my people? What will they follow? The human's gaze did not waver. They will follow truth. Even if it is hard, even if it hurts, truth is stronger than lies. Show them your heart, not your armor. Show them courage without hiding behind metal. His words made her chest tighten. Courage without armor. Could she even stand like that? She had always relied on the steel plates to cover her, to convince her she was untouchable. To be strong without them felt like standing naked before a storm. She looked at her soldiers again. Many were still kneeling, their weapons cast aside. Some stared at her with disappointment, others with hope, as if waiting for her to prove she could still lead. Their faith was not fully gone. It trembled like a flame in the wind, ready to die or ready to burn brighter if she gave it reason. Her throat tightened. She lowered her blade slowly and let it drop to the ground. The clang echoed through the field, louder than any battle cry. Her soldiers stiffened, shocked. For their champion to drop her weapon was unthinkable. But she did not bow. She straightened her back and raised her voice. I was wrong. I believed metal made me strong. I told you lies and you believed them. But this human has shown me the truth. Strength is not in steel. It is here. She pressed her hand against her chest, over her heart. It is in us. The words came out heavy, torn from her pride, but once spoken they felt real. A weight lifted from her shoulders, replaced with something unfamiliar, something close to freedom. Her soldiers stirred, their eyes wide. Some whispered, others nodded faintly. For the first time she had not spoken as an untouchable champion, but as one of them. The human gave a slight nod as though he had been waiting for her to see it. He spoke quietly, but his voice carried. Now you begin to understand. The girl met his eyes. There was no hate in them now, only an uneasy respect. He had broken her armor, but perhaps he had given her something greater in return, yet her pride was not gone. It lingered, sharp and restless. She stepped closer, her voice low so only he could hear. Do not think this makes you my master, human. I will learn, yes, but one day I will rise again, and then we will see whose strength is greater. The human's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. Then rise, not as a prisoner of armor, but as yourself. That will be a fight worth having. The battlefield was no longer filled with roars or jeers. It was filled with something new. An uneasy calm, the sense that something greater than victory or defeat had just begun. The battlefield no longer felt like a place of war. The soldiers, once ready to kill at their champion's command, now stood or knelt in silence. The broken armor lay scattered like fallen stars, gleaming faintly under the dim light. The alien girl stood tall without it, her pride wounded but her spirit still burning. She had admitted her mistake, but her heart was restless, uncertain of what came next. The human stood steady, his blade at his side, calm as ever. He had not shouted, had not demanded, yet the field had shifted to his favor. Her army looked at him not as prey, but as something greater, something they could not ignore. The girl's voice rose, sharp, but no longer filled with blind arrogance. Do not think this is the end. My people will not fall because of one battle. We will rise again stronger, But perhaps, she paused, her chest tightening as the words stuck in her throat. Perhaps not in the way we once believed. Her soldiers looked at her with surprise. Some expected anger, others expected another boast, but instead they heard something new, uncertain yet honest. The human studied her. That choice is yours. You can rebuild on lies or you can rebuild on truth. Only one will last. She hated how his words cut so easily, how they carried the weight of something she could not deny. Her pride wanted to strike back, but her heart whispered another thought. Maybe he was right. Maybe that was why he stood so strong, why nothing she did could break him. The soldiers began to rise slowly, not with weapons ready, but with hesitant steps. They looked between their champion and the human. Their eyes asked the same question, what now? The girl clenched her fists. She had lost the duel, lost the armor, lost the illusion she once carried. But leadership was not gone. It had only changed. She took a deep breath and shouted so all could hear. Stand with me. Not for steel, not for lies. Stand because we are alive and we will not be slaves to fear. Her words carried across the broken ground. The soldiers raised their heads, some even lifting their weapons, not to point at the human, but to hold as a sign they still had will left. Their faith was fragile, but it had not died. The human gave the faintest nod. She saw it not as mockery, but as acknowledgement. He respected that she still stood even after defeat. That small gesture filled her chest with fire again. Not the fire of arrogance, but the fire of determination. Yet even as the moment steadied, a new sound echoed across the field. A horn long, deep, and heavy. The girl's face hardened. Reinforcements. More of her people were coming, an entire host who still believed in the myth of invincible armor. Her soldiers shifted nervously. They knew what the reinforcements would demand. Vengeance, proof of their people's strength, the crushing of the human who had broken their champion. The girl's heart pounded. She had only just begun to see the truth, but her people would not listen. They would throw themselves into slaughter to defend a lie, and the human, calm though he was, could not stand forever against endless waves. She turned toward him, her voice sharp. If they come, they will not listen. They will see you as a threat that must be destroyed. The human's eyes did not waver. Then you must decide what you truly are. Their shield of lies or their voice of truth. Her chest tightened. She had never felt fear like this. Not of death, but of choice. She had always known who she was, or thought she did. But now the path split, and whichever way she chose would decide the fate of her people. The horn sounded again, louder this time. Dust rose on the horizon, shadows of marching soldiers moving closer. The girl's army looked at her waiting. The human watched her, steady and silent. For the first time she felt the weight of true leadership. Not in boasting, not in armor, but in deciding the path for all who followed. The dust thickened on the horizon as the reinforcements marched closer. The ground trembled beneath their boots, and the horn's echo carried a promise of war. Dozens of banners fluttered, their colors bright, their steel shining. To them, the myth of invincible armor was still alive. They had not seen it break. They had not seen their champion fall. The girl's soldiers shifted uneasily, caught between truth and tradition. Some gripped their weapons tighter. Others glanced nervously at her, waiting for her command. If she told them to fight, they would. If she told them to kneel, many would obey. But for the first time, she knew that words alone could no longer hold them. She had to choose who she was. Her heart pounded as she looked at the human. He had not moved, his calm steady as stone. His eyes met hers with a quiet challenge. He was not going to lead her people for her. This was her burden. This was her chance. The reinforcements came into view. Thousands of soldiers in shining armor. Weapons raised, voices chanting her name. To them, she was still the indestructible champion, the shield of their pride. They expected her to stand tall in her silver armor and point her blade at the enemy. But she had no armor now. Only herself. The horn blew again and the front line halted. An officer stepped forward, his voice booming. Champion, give the order and we will crush the human where he stands. All eyes turned to her. Her breath caught. She saw her people, her future, balanced on the edge of her decision. Slowly, she stepped forward. The shattered pieces of her armor crunched beneath her feet. Her soldiers parted to let her pass. When she reached the center of the field, she raised her voice so all could hear. Look at me, she shouted. Her voice cracked, but it carried. You call me champion, but the armor that made me so is broken. The humans showed us what we refused to see. Steel can break. Lies can shatter. If we keep fighting for illusions, we will die for nothing. Gasps rose from the crowd. The officer's face twisted in shock. You speak madness. Your armor is the pride of our people. She cut him off, her voice fierce. Our pride is a cage. I believed I was invincible, and he proved me wrong. I was not defeated because I lacked strength. I was defeated because I believed in steel instead of myself. If you fight him now, you will all see the same truth, and it will destroy us. The army murmured, their voices uncertain, torn between belief and denial. The officer raised his weapon. Then you have betrayed us. You would side with a human over your own people? The girl's chest tightened. Pride told her to strike him down, to silence his doubt with force. But she remembered the human's words. Strength was not in lies. She lifted her chin and shouted, I do not stand with a human. I stand with truth. If we are to survive, we must change. We must be more than steel. We must be more than fear. The silence that followed was sharp. Her soldiers stared, caught between rage and revelation. Then slowly, one of the kneeling warriors rose and shouted, She speaks truth. Another followed, raising his weapon to the sky. Soon more voices joined, the sound spreading like fire. The officer faltered, his face pale. The tide had turned. Not through blood, but through words that came from her heart. The girl turned to the human. Their eyes met, and for the first time there was no hatred between them. Only respect. She bowed her head slightly. You broke my armor, but you gave me something stronger. I will not forget this, the human nodded. Then you will not fall again. The field no longer echoed with horns or threats. It echoed with something far greater, the beginning of change. The girl had lost her pride, but she had found her truth. And her people, once blinded by lies of steel, began to see strength in a new light. The war that had started with arrogance ended not in blood, but in understanding. And for the first time, the galaxy feared not unbreakable armor, but the strength of those who dared to face the truth.